Scrapbook pages, made from a mix of collections and manufacturers, always inspire me, but they paralyze me too. I like the idea of using all of these things together, but I don't know where to start mixing. What if it doesn't match exactly? Is there a strategy that would help me find what works together? Glitter Girl, can you help?
Of course I can. Today I have one 5x7 photo, and I'm going to create a layout mixing brand new supplies and old supplies from my stash, and I'm going to share my steps for how I go about doing that and try and break it down as much as I can. So I tend to choose the photo first and then go with the new supplies, and the reasoning behind that is not that I need to pick the newer ones first, but that the newer ones tend to be more easily accessible for me in the way that I store my supplies. So the new papers tend to be on top of the stack on each shelf of paper, and so it's quick. I also remember what's in those, the new papers. I remember them more than what's in the old papers. And I'll tell you a little secret that I have for using my old papers is that when I only have 2 or 3 minutes to be with my craft supplies, and I say it that way because it means that I don't necessarily have time to do any cutting and pasting whatsoever. If I can do one thing, I'll take a set of papers or a set of stickers that I haven't looked at in a little while, and I'll just pull them out of my desk or in my hands, and I'll go through them and remind myself of what's there and put them away and walk out of the room. And that keeps my mind remembering all those things that I have that I don't see when I walk into my space. And that's a really important way for me to refresh my mind and make sure that I use things that I love, even if they are a few layers deep in the stack of paper and not the one that's right on top. Okay, so I tend to pick the new ones first. So I've chosen 3 new ones to go with this photo. This is a photo taken at a local museum that has a giant world map on the floor that you can run all over. And so I like the idea of going with a map theme, and I also want to take my colors straight from the photo. I'm going to use blues, grays, and yellow. Super simple. So the first thing that caught my eye was this part of the cut apart sheet with the shades of blue in this piece here with the globe, but it's a twist on a globe, so it goes along with this giant map theme, but it's not overkill on the maps straight away. And then I thought, well, why don't I go ahead and pair it with something that does have a more genuine map, more traditional map. So I pulled out this one. So these are both from Starshine. The globes is called Exploration, and the cut apart is called Astro. Then I, of course, need something that's going to be more like a background. And I've pulled this one out, which is from Amy Tangerine's Better Together. And I love the A side too, but I'm going to use the B side, this navy blue with the white polka dot. So there's my new stuff and my photo there to help me. And then the next thing I go to is my older papers. And I've chosen 3 12x12s. All from different manufacturers, and we'll see what you think about what I've chosen. So I've chosen this one from Ellie's Studio, which is gray with little ledger stars. That's a 2013 paper from Everyday Moments. The other side is bright green. And then I've chosen this yellow floral that has a little navy and gray in the detailing. That's a sassafras paper. It's from Sunshine Broadcast, which was probably their last collection, one of their last collections. So that was 2011. I also like this calendar, and if it cuts out to the right point, I might use one of the months in the embellishment. And then going way back, I have this blue with a little bit of yellow and different shades of green in the little box print. This is an old KI Memories paper that is not cardstock weight, so I need to keep that in mind because I'm not going to put something really heavy on it. It's not that heavy. This is a 2005 paper, but I really liked this. They used to do designs like this a lot, and I really liked them, and I bought way too many that I could use at the time, and I still have them, and every once in a while I pull one out, and it feels like a special occasion to use a paper that I've saved for a really long time. So you can see straight away that these are all different styles of illustration, but I hope that they will all come together. I do go ahead and look at other paper elements next before I bring in my embellishments. And I like to get my papers on the desk so that I will be able to see everything come together. So I had those original 3 papers that I'd chosen. Now I have these, and I can still see my photo here. I love that this is a nice match to the blue. I like that this is a nice match to the yellow, but I have this nice darker gray to work with as a little bit of a neutral. I thought I would definitely need a journaling card for this page, and I know the journaling that I want to write. I want to write about this museum and why I'm so glad that it's very nearby, and the sorts of things that we do there. And I'm not sure entirely which journaling card I'm going to use, but I've pulled out 3. So I have this one that's yellow. I think that was from a 12 by 12 that I cut down. I know this is a 12 by 12 that was cut down. This was an Amy Tan paper. So this is kind of a rusty red with a gray box. But I thought if it was looking like too much yellow or too much color, that could bring it back. And then I also have this gray Project Life card, which is the kind that folds in half, but I might use it just flat on the page, possibly. But I wanted a gray option just in case. And while I was going through my box that has 4 by 6 cards, I also had this one, which is a cut apart. It might be from the same cut apart sheet as this, or maybe just the same collection. But this really caught my eye, and I thought I could use that. It's just a different shade of blue, but it's tone on tone with the light blue and the dark blue. I thought that had some good potential. So I've pulled out these 4 cards, knowing that I won't use all 4. Then this was kind of my stepping stone to embellishment. So now I want to figure out what do I want to go with that. And I've gone with my older embellishments first, thinking that just how those newer papers were easier for me to see, the newer embellishments in the way I store them, they're easier for me to see as I work. So when I have all my papers chosen, I want to pick my new embellishments last, pick my old embellishments first, because if I'm 75-80% of the way done with the page but it needs something, I'll be able to see the stuff that's new, because it's out and it's easy for me to see in my stash. But the older stuff gets hidden away, so I pick that out first. So I have some Heidi Swapp stickers. I have this little globe. It has 3 and then 6 little stars that I could use maybe. I thought maybe this Explore might work in navy blue. It seemed like there was some potential there. You've seen me use these on lots of things if you've watched older videos. I love these map star stickers from Studio Calico, and I've used them on dozens of layouts. I only have a few left on the very last sheet that I own, but I thought it might be good with this theme of the maps. It might work. And this camera caught my eye. This is an older set of Amy Tangerine thickers. I'm not sure if I'll use that, but it caught my eye and I thought I'd go ahead and pull it out just in case. It would be nice to have some chipboard, something with a little bit of different texture. And then I also pulled out an Amy Tangerine stamp. This one from Finders Keepers with this great big world map, because I thought that could go great on a journaling card and kind of pull that map stuff all together to bring it all into some sort of harmony. So this is what I've chosen. That means I don't have any new embellishments out yet, and I also haven't chosen my lettering yet, because those 2 things in the way I keep my supplies are really easy for me to see, so I can just glance to my left and figure out what I would like to add when I get to that stage in the layout. So now I start working with my paper first. I'm going to take these 2 papers and put them aside straight away, because they're the 2 that I don't intend to use in big blocks. I'm going to cut them into smaller pieces. This one's a cut apart, so that's a little obvious. I'm probably just going to cut that box out. But this one, my intention is to use just 1 or 2 globes and detail cut around them with my scissors. So I'm going to put those 2 aside so that they're not confusing my my glance as I'm trying to figure out how these 4 papers go together to create the base of my layout. Then my next decision is always which one is going to be the 12 by 12 background, and I want to use this blue. I don't tend to have a lot of overthinking about which one should be at the very back. There's always one that just tends to grab my attention a little bit more, and I just run with that and try not to worry about it. The worst that can happen is that when the layout is more than halfway done, I start to think that the background isn't enough. that it needs some other sort of detail, and then I look to see if it's possible to cut down 2 or 4 sides to make that background a little smaller and just frame it with another paper. So I try not to panic about what could be going on there. Then I'm going to look at these 3 and figure out what sort of thing I'd like. Now, I do really like that these blues go really well together, but I think it might be nice to have the contrast here. But then do I want that gray in the background? My thought is, because this photo it's a landscape photo, so it's horizontal, but also it feels very horizontal, even though there are these lines in the photo that are coming at an angle. He's positioned so that he's facing that way, and he has lines that feel very horizontal, both in the way that his hands, his face, and his feet are pointing, and also the fact that he has horizontal stripes on his shirt, and that shirt is really high contrast. So everything feels to me to go in this horizontal line, and I want to go ahead and incorporate that in the design. That means I'm going to have these big blocks of horizontal paper across here. I think what I'll start with is cutting a nice big horizontal box of this star paper and seeing how I like it on the blue, and then I can build smaller until I get to the photo on top. I really liked the finished look of the gray edges on my layout last week, so since this layout has blues and grays, I figured I would go ahead and continue with that gray inking, so I'm just using that same gray ink pad on my edges this week. Okay, so I have this one cut down so that it's a little bit more narrow than the page, than the 12-inch page. So I'm going to have that little bit of blue frame around the edge. And what I'm wanting to do is I find the center of the page and then I move in one direction a little bit. I'm going up a little bit. That helps, it just helps to add a little bit of movement to a page. So if everything is weighted in the center of every single page, it becomes very predictable. But likewise, if I use that rule of going 4 inches in or 3 inches in on every page in my album, it's going to become predictable. And we like variety to the eye. Now, we don't like so much variety that it feels disjointed. But it's helpful to have a range of different things to figure out what you can use where, and just have a little bit of variety so that it maintains a style that looks like one person made it, but every page doesn't look exactly the same. So sometimes I'll use the thirds line and I'll go, okay, 1/3 in and 1/3 down, and I'll place everything here. Or you've seen me do 1/3 over from this side and 2/3 down here so that I use this corner. Sometimes I might use the very center of the page, but sometimes and often I start in the center and then I move in one direction a little bit. So in this case, I've moved slightly up and my photo is going slightly over. And that just gives me just enough variety for me. And my photo is going to go right there. You might like more or less variety in your album. And I love that we have room for all those different styles. Okay, so now I have this kind of base structure of my page. I know I want a place for quite a bit of journaling. I know I'm going to want a title. I know that I have this part of my photo that I don't completely love, and because you can see another person here and the color is very bright where she has a little hot pink coat on and it captures your attention. So I might place some of my embellishment over this because this is the part of the photo I want you to see when you look at this page in my album. I also have these layers so that I have nice places to put some embellishment and just tuck it in so it won't feel like it's floating no matter where my title and my journaling. I cut out a variety of different things that I'm going to add in. So this photo was in June and I have the June bit of calendar that's the B-side of that paper. I've cut out that So Awesome and also the Days of the Week strip. And then I cut out my globe and I chose one with a yellow flower, But what I'm going to be doing is layering them with a little bit of dimension there. So originally this was attached here, but I've cut it out this way so that I can layer them. I hope that makes sense. And then of course my that little 3x4 card that I started off with, it's my inspiration at the beginning. I decided with all that I'd like to go with the yellow journaling card, and it's going to fit nicely here. But before I do the journaling, I wanted to stamp a map on it. So I have my my map stamp from that Finders Keepers stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it in Versamark ink onto this card, and then I'm going to emboss it in silver powder. And the text is over here to this side, but I'm going to run the map over here off the edge. And I'm just going to put a little bit of paper there. So just about like that. So Versamark ink is great for embossing because it's really sticky. And so my powder will stick to that design. And then I just use a heat tool to melt the powder. There's my map. My journaling card is going to go under this bottom edge toward the bottom right corner of the page. And just going to make sure I have some adhesive around that heated area because it's warped a little bit, but it will flatten out on the layout, so I'm not too worried. And then work out where these other little pieces are going to go. Thought the month could go near the top so that in a way I'm building this kind of column of yellow. And the days of the week could continue there in these layers and just be tucked underneath one of those. There we go. And remember, I have this space in the photo that I'm not loving. Well, I think this is the right thing to cover it up. I was going to place it there, but then I just noticed that I cut off the map and it makes it not quite as obvious what that is. I think if I move it up a little bit, this edge helps you to see that it's a map. So I'll move that up a bit. Maybe even up a bit more. I like this little gray to show here, so I think that's okay. Just about there. And then is there a good spot for my so awesome, or is that all a little too much? I think the so awesome might be too big for this particular layout, so I'm going to set it aside for now. I can always come back if things start to feel a little bit too empty. This is a good time for me to go ahead and fill in my journaling so that I make sure I can fit that story in because it's already there in my head and I want to make sure that I don't have to compromise it because of the space. And then it's looking like this might be a good spot for the title as long as I can do it without covering up the map. This could also work as a title if I decide I don't want to add any more lettering, so I can keep that in mind. My journaling actually fit right in that space. I don't have any left over, but I also got everything in there that I wanted to. So I'm really happy with that and happy to kind of carry on now with the rest of my design. I want something to go a little bit more toward the left here, and I know I have this globe here, but I think I might just go ahead and put the globes side by side, and instead of having them kind of this distance so that it doesn't look, it's not 100%. I've noticed that on this little globe I have these two shades of green, and those greens don't really appear in many other places. They actually fit quite well because there's just this little hint of two shades of green in that blue pattern paper, but it would be nice to bring the green in somewhere else. So I think my title is a great place for that, and I like the idea that the green will be something that's not his focal color, so that because this title is going to be over here and it's kind of pulling away from the direction that he's looking, it won't be one of the same colors. So this should be secondary. This should be your primary source of what you see when you look at the page, and then this is just kind of secondary information in the title. So I went to my older letter stickers and pulled out 3 green options, and I think I'm going to use 2 of them. I loved these green fabric thickers that are years and years old. Does it say how old they are? But I really liked them, so I got quite a few. No, there's not even a year on them, but I think they're probably 5 years old at least. So I had a few, and I kept one whole sheet that I haven't even touched, so I've just taken it out of the plastic. I also really like these green glittery sassafras letters, which you'll notice I also have a whole sheet that I've just kept perfect and not touched. But I don't think this is the right green. These greens are a little warmer. This one is a little more on the cool neon side. So I'm going to keep that for another day. It will remain intact. And then I have these October afternoon stickers that are not quite so old, and somehow Pop Dot got stuck to them. And they will work for my longer words in a smaller type. I started laying these letters out here, and remember I moved this card up because I wanted to be able to see the map, and it started to overlap, and I thought, well, I'll go ahead and just place them lightly to see how much of the map it's going to cover up. And if it had just been maybe to here, I probably would have left it, but this is too much. I'm really worried now that if I leave it there, you wouldn't be able to tell that it's a map. So I'm going to move this all down, and hopefully I can work something into the space that then is going to be above that so that it doesn't feel too awkward. I think my best option is to move it right the way down to this edge here. This is quite a wide font, and I haven't worked with wide fonts quite so much recently, so I'm into a habit of using nice long titles without having to worry about them taking up quite so much real estate on the page. And you will notice that because this was a home printed photo, it has taken a little bit of the color there. I'm going to leave it for the sake of this video, but I will probably reprint this photo and just slip it underneath to have a nice perfect print there when I'm done. If it had been a lab print, that wouldn't have happened, and that is another reason that I do tend to prefer lab prints. I need to get myself back organized with printing my photos. I got off track during the holidays while I was just looking at Christmas pictures all the time. So now I'm just going to change the wording I was going to use a little bit, and put the smaller letters here where underneath, or my original plan was to have them underneath. I do still have a little bit of space here. I'm going to go ahead and start with finishing my embellishment and see if I can make all of that work. So I have my chipboard pieces, my stars, and those epoxy stickers. I also have this lovely little edge that was on that sassafras paper that might come in useful. I think it's not quite right for right there. Okay, so I had thought about that great big camera, but I think it's going to be, yeah, it's too big to go there. I think it's, as much as I love cameras on everything, I think it's, because it's so big, it would be one big additional motif, and I've already got all these maps and stars and flowers, and maybe I need to keep with that. I've just realized though that I can fill this gap with this beautiful word here that even makes sense in the title. It'll work. Okay, so that's that gap sorted. I'd like to use another one of these and bring the map motif up here. So this is the epoxy globe. I think I'll tuck it behind. And then I have different star motifs. So I think 3 stars down here. Or maybe I just do 2 of that size and I mix in these navy stars. And overlap them. It's a little haphazard, but I'm kind of enjoying it. Okay. I was just checking to see if I had a chipboard star there, but I don't. I think I'll move. That's a little different than what I would normally do, but I think it's a nice different. Bring 1 star over here to the globe. That kind of pulls this globe and that globe together. But now this is feeling a little lost. Maybe if I pull one of these flowers from the pattern paper, that could work. And I know I just said the reason I wasn't using that camera is because it's another big motif. But this yellow leaf chipboard, I have these little flowers, and I was thinking of bringing in another one. I have the yellow floral back here, so the leaves don't actually feel like a new motif to me. And I'm thinking that they could have just the right bit of movement for up here. I had 2 of those little map stars there, so I think, I know what I want. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my map paper, not for another, or my globe paper, not for another globe, but for another flower that I can run this way with this little globe, and then I'll put this star on pop dots over the top so that I have this layered effect again where I have something over the top of the flowers. Then I think I'm probably done. Little yellow flower taken from that pattern paper. I'm going to put that behind there. And tiny pop dot for my star sticker. It does mean I haven't really come back to add lots of new embellishment. I ended up using new paper with old paper and old embellishment. And I used this bit of paper as an embellishment. And this stamp is kind of, it's not brand new, but it's within the last year, so that's definitely new in my world. And I think that's where I'm going to stop. I like that the green is really just over here, and I have this nice column of yellow that really highlights him, and this column which brings all the colors from him and follows those lines in the photo. So I'm really happy with that. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it helps you bring your new and old supplies together. I would love to see what you're making. Please, if you have any challenges for Glitter Girl, leave them in the comments here, or come join our Facebook group and have a chat about all things scrappy. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. Thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe so you don't miss any Wednesday adventures. See you soon. Bye!